Hey, it's Nathan, and in this video I want to talk about getting a job. Now, I'm not playing into the stigma or the jokes of, unemployment and all that type of, relation to not having a job, but I want to talk about a more serious matter, and I want to speak on my experiences with jobs, and especially my first job, right? So, my first job was at this arcade place, and I worked there about 2.5, 3 years. Now, when I first started working there, I was actually dealing with my first high school breakup. Now, this relationship didn't really last long, and it wasn't that serious, but I did really like the girl, and so it did suck when we broke up. I remember I just kind of sitting at home moping and not really doing anything, so I was looking for a job at the time. And I remember my sister was actually on a date with her boyfriend at the time. They went to this arcade place, and me and my dad went to pick her up. So we go there, and my dad sees a sign that said they were hiring, so he brought it up to me because he knew I was looking for a job. And so that's what I did. I applied, and I started working there a few weeks later. Now, during this time of my life, it was actually a really low point, and I'm not speaking on the fact that I had just gotten out of a relationship or just gotten broken up with. It was more of I didn't really like myself. I had no confidence. My self-image was really poor. I was very insecure. Had really bad like social skills and social anxiety in general. So this was just a very bad like time in my life to be myself, I guess. And so when I first got this job, obviously I was looking to make money, right? I would do nothing else in my free time, so I might as well work and make some money doing it. And of course, a lot of people are going to see that as just what being a job is. And to a degree, I do understand that, and especially when I first started working. But what I didn't realize is that there was actually so much more to the job than just making money. And of course, I'm speaking on a personal experience. And I say that because there was a lot of skills I learned from working. And a big one, most jobs are going to have a customer service aspect to them. Not all jobs, but a lot of times you're going to have to deal with customers. And at my job, I deal with customers every day. There's no day you work that you're not dealing with customers unless zero customers come in. And that just doesn't happen, right? So, um, I ended up picking up a lot of skills, and especially with customers, it's unavoidable dealing with them. You have to deal with them. You gotta talk to them, whether that's selling to them or guiding them or helping them in whatever they might need help with, right? And just learning that talking to random people every day was part of the job actually helped so much with my social anxiety and social skills in general. It was easier to hold conversations, easier to talk to people, and it was a lot of confidence came with it. I was very unconfident, and being able to talk to people like that constantly on the regular definitely breaks you out your shell, and just overall you get confidence from being able to hold conversations and talk to just anybody. And I didn't acknowledge that it would help in the way that it did. But there's also just so much more than just skills in that regard, right? I also worked at this restaurant. um, and at this restaurant, I originally was just bussing tables, but I got, pretty good at my job to where they were trusting me to move me up, and I became a server in only like a few months working there. And that's pretty difficult. A lot of places aren't hiring unless you have server experience, and the only way to do that is work in a restaurant. For a lot of times, you gotta work there, like put in a lot more time, like a couple years sometimes. And for me, it just took a few months, and I was already serving. And serving, yeah, man, the patience that you learn from dealing with customers, like you really got to bite your tongue a lot when serving, because with serving, it truly is a lot of bad customers that come in that just antagonize you or say the most rude things to you, and you got to learn to just bite your tongue and not say anything back. And of course, also you learn to deal with crowds. Maybe it's not a one-on-one anymore. Like when you come in with regular customers, you're dealing with the crowds a lot of times. Sometimes up to 10, 12 people. And these were just skills that I was naturally learning just from working. And I don't know. You do pick up a lot of skills in the workplace, and also it's just good in general, right? I feel like now more than ever, it's a lot harder to find a job. And with that being said, people are always looking for experience. You can once you get that first job in, you have experience for pretty much anywhere. A lot of places are just looking for experience in the workplace. They're not looking for specific skills unless you are like again like serving. You're gonna want server experience if you want to try and become a server. But other than that, I mean, at that first arcade job, I ended up getting promoted all the way up to general manager. And there's a lot of managerial duties. Now it's a lot more. You're learning how to handle money and all that type of stuff. When you do countdowns or sending emails, all types of genuine skills that you are picking up just from being in that workplace. And I truly think getting a job helped me with more than just making some money and filling up my bank account, right? Just from the person I am back then, before I ever worked, to where I am now, there is so much that I know if I had never gotten a job, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, I feel. And you do just kind of learn that over time being in the workplace and in that type of setting in that regards. But for the most part, I do think it is important for people to get jobs because there's a lot more to it than just making money. Truly, like you pick up a lot of skills that I don't think in most cases you can attain naturally, or at least it just kind of prompts you to pick up those skills that maybe you could find in other settings. Like I was a pretty again socially anxious person, and I do credit a lot of that to my job. But of course, you can do that in school and other places. But if you have issues like that, getting a job does help tremendously with all that type of stuff. But pretty short and brief video, but I did just kind of want to talk about it because I feel it is important. And anyway, get a job, don't be a bum. See ya.